Well, I tell you what, John, I always warn people not to read anything into preseason games in any sport. And that's usually a pretty safe philosophy. And yet I couldn't help myself the other day say, my God, this team is deep. Let's get into this newly constructed roster and what it could mean once the games actually count. We'll also talk about the Timberwolves getting ready to go see Karl-Anthony Towns, what that first game did look like, and a couple of John's conversations with Timberwolves figures. This is the Jon Krawczynski Show. He's Jon Krawczynski from The Athletic. I'm Jim Suhan from the Star Tribune. This is our NBA and basketball show at TalkNorth.com. You should know the lineup by now. Don Mitchell had a great episode with Chris Hockey this last week. We've got Ryan Shaver, Michael Russo, Kevin Gore, Jeff Diamond, John Millay, Roy Smalley, Lavelle Neal III, Mike Grimm, outdoor content. Check it all out. If you like this show or any other show at the network, please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We want to thank Princeton's Liquors, True Vision Institute, TSR Injury Law, Head Flyer Brewing, and Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops Clothing Line, our longtime sponsors. So, John, go ahead and take it from there. What did you think of your first look at this apparently deep roster?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the way to look at it, without making blanket statements from one preseason game against the Lakers team without LeBron and Anthony Davis out there, was that you can see the depth with which they will be playing this year, the Timberwolves. Josh Minott's not going to shoot 9 for 11 every game. Dillingham is not going to knock down shots the way he did every single game, but you can see all of the options that are going to be available to Chris Finch throughout this season, which I think is a very good thing when you're talking about trying to save some wear and tear on Mike Conley, when you're trying to maybe not have to rely quite as heavily on Anthony Edwards for your offensive output all year long, and so that he has more gas in the tank when it comes to the playoffs. When you're talking about a wing rotation off of the bench with Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Rob Dillingham, Dante DiVincenzo, Terrence Shannon Jr., I mean, that's really pretty impressive. And then you throw in Joe Ingles and you throw in Minott and you throw in even like at the very back end, Luka Garza and Leonard Miller. Like, these are all NBA players on this roster. Like, we can say that we can temper our expectations or like not go too crazy on what we saw off of one game. But what we do know is that from 1 through 12, 13, 14 on this roster, they're all NBA players. And that is not something that we've been able to say often about the Timberwolves, and what a lot of NBA teams have a trouble saying as well. So I think that they are going to be able to weather some injury storms if they come. They're going to be able to kind of be a little bit more versatile in terms of what they look like from night in and night out, depending on who they're matched up against. And I think that's going to be a very good thing for Chris Finch throughout this 82-game season.
It's almost easier to talk about who might have trouble getting playing time than those who look like they're going to earn it. Who's kind of on the bubble? Who's going to need an injury to find an opening and get court time?
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, and I think as good as Minott looked on Friday, it's going to be hard for him to get super consistent minutes, at least right away, because you're talking about, if you want to say that, let's just go down it. We got the starting 5: Conley, Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Julius Randle, and Rudy Gobert. That's 5. Then you have Naz Reid, you have Nickeil Alexander-Walker, you have Rob Dillingham, you have Joe Ingles, you have Dante DiVincenzo. That's 10. Like, that's 10 right there. And Chris Finch told us at practice on Sunday that you cannot go to 11 in a rotation. You just can't do it. It's just too hard to make the minutes work, and have everyone, be put in a position to succeed. 10 is even pushing it. Generally, most coaches like about a 9-man rotation. So even if Joe Ingles, you say, well, he's not going to be playing a ton, he's a little older, you're going to save him and use him on spot duty, then you're down to 9 in the rotation. And where's the spot for Josh Minott? Where's the spot for Luka Garza, who had 20 points in that game on Friday, and looked really good. And Leonard Miller is just has almost no chance to play. Keita Bates-Diop, who has played in the league and could be helpful to teams, doesn't have real much of a chance of cracking this rotation right now. So that just shows you sort of what they're dealing with from a depth perspective, is that rotation fills up very, very quickly. And you got really talented guys who are going to be on the outside of it looking in.
Do you see a trade coming where Tim Connolly moves people, even if it's just for second-round draft picks?
Probably not right away. I think that they will, because of the war of attrition that a season can be. I mean, you just never know. If they suffer a couple of injuries, they're going to need those guys, and they're going to have to just kind of let it play out and see. But as they get closer to the February trade deadline, if things look pretty much as they do right now, I could see Tim Connolly trying to be creative a little bit and see if you can kind of get some flexibility, whether it's adding picks or whether it's consolidating some of those players to go get someone else who might be on the outs with another team. There are possibilities that way. And that is kind of what we heard from Tim Connolly after the Karl-Anthony Towns trade, is that as much as they love Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo and think that they will help them, which they do, the flexibility that it gives them going forward to make deals and to continue to get creative is really important for them. And so, I think that eventually they could be looking at a scenario where they have guys who are talented, but also are getting antsy and want to play and deserve to play, that just can't get in there. And they might, you might have to look at what you can do with them to help yourself down the road.
Let's reiterate that point. I think so many Minnesota sports fans have Pollad, agitation syndrome, that if they see a move that actually saves a team money, short-term, long-term, or against the cap, they immediately think it's a cheap move. This was not made because either current or future ownership is cheap. It was made for financial flexibility, which is not the same thing as just trying to save money on your 2024 earnings.
Right, exactly. What the Twins did was just summarily cut money.
Yes.
And hurt their chances of being competitive in doing so just to save money.
Yes.
What the Timberwolves did was they did cut money, but what they wanted to do more than cut money, because really when you look at the actual math of it, Jim, they're going to save probably somewhere in the area of $15 million this year on their luxury tax bill. And when you're talking about a bill of like $180 million, that is not as significant as it might sound. And so it wasn't saying we are paying too much money to our guys, we have to reduce the spending. It was the way that our money is being allocated makes it very, very difficult for us to make trades, sign free agents, do other things under the collective bargaining agreement rules, not only for this year, but going forward the next several years. And so they essentially just realigned their books so that they have pieces now that are more easily moved, and they have a pathway to get under this second apron next season, which certainly will save them a bunch of money, but opens up more avenues for them to make trades, to make signings, to do a lot of the things that they need to do to continue building this forward. So it was strategic more than it was thrifty in terms of the way to characterize this deal. And Glenn Taylor, I've reported, told Tim Connolly that he would have been fine running it back. I think Alex Rodriguez and Mark Laurie, at least for 1 year, would have been fine running it back. Same with Glenn Taylor for 1 year. We'd see like what happened after that. But yes, this was much more of a managing the costs and providing themselves with team building opportunities versus we just got to cut payroll. We can't afford this.
Right. All right. Let's get into the upcoming game with Cat and some of the conversations you've had around the team. First, though, tell us about Princeton's Liquors.
Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove. Bill Princeton, the Princeton family have been in business for decades. Go in there, and especially if you're looking for a great craft beer selection, if you're looking for a great bourbon selection, those are the two kind of money makers for them, the home run hitters. They have wide variety of craft beer and of bourbon to fit your taste, fit your budget, and fit whatever you're looking for. But they also have any other kinds of spirits, wine that are available. Go into Princeton's Liquors. Bill Princeton has been a part of the basketball community in the Twin Cities forever. He was an intern with the Wolves and Lynx and wore the Crunch costume back in 2001. And so he's been around and he's been embedded in this community. So Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove, stop in and tell them the Jon Krawczynski Show sent you.
A reminder, we're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We also want to thank one of our longest running sponsors, TSR Injury Law, 612-TSR-TIME, 612-TSR-TIME. Call them now. You will thank them later. If you are injured, this is the company you want to work with. These are the people you want to work with. We know Steve Terry. We've known him for a long time now. He's supported this podcast and this network for a long time. And I know if anybody, myself or anybody in my family were injured, that's the number I would call immediately, 612-TSR-TIME. They will either help you or point you in the right direction. And if they take your case, they won't charge you unless they win your case. And they win a lot of cases. That's why they're such a great success story. Let's see, before we move on to more topics, I do want to hear about your experience with True Vision Institute.
True Vision in Bloomington, just a wonderful place to go. I went there this summer, had LASIK surgery, and just can't recommend it enough. It is a life-changing, quite literally, procedure to have, and it's over so quickly. You go in, you have like 90 seconds per eye that they do. You go home, you sleep for an evening, and you wake up in the morning and you see clearly and you see perfectly. And that's what happened with me. Dr. Chu is wonderful, easy to work with, very calming in the operating room as you're going through the procedure. And all of his support staff is so wonderful, so caring. And you walk out of there and they all say congratulations, and you're thinking, congratulations, I just had surgery. But really it's a congratulations because you're about to have your life change in really meaningful ways. Everything is easier since I ditched the contacts and glasses. I don't have to worry about regular eye appointments. I don't have to worry about spending hundreds of dollars every couple years on contacts and glasses. LASIK surgery has really changed things for me, and I wish I would have done it 10 years ago. So go to truevision.com, set up a consultation. They will take you through all of the paces and find what is the right vision correction for you. Truevision.com, True Vision Institute in Bloomington.
During the introductory press conference, Tim Connolly did make a point of praising Josh Minott. Is that read that for me. Is that just him being nice to a guy who has improved, or is there a point being made there?
Yeah, I'll admit it, both Tim Connolly and Chris Finch said sort of last week in the lead up to their first preseason game that Josh Minott has had one of the best summers of anyone. And sometimes you're wondering, well, are they just trying to kind of gas him up a little bit? Are they trying to, make him feel good and get everyone going and just try and get some momentum going for him? I wondered about that. But then you see him play on Friday night against the Lakers, and it was a revelation. Like, he looked so much more confident in his game. He looked so much more sure of his role, and he was athletic. He's like 6'9", 6'10", like he's got great size. He's knocking down 4 threes in the game. He's getting to the rim with authority and throwing down dunks, playing good defense. This is the kind of stuff that they had hoped to get from Josh Minott when they first drafted him. But you do remember that he's only 21 years old. He is a young guy, and he's been here for a couple of years, but maybe it's just taken a little bit of time for him to develop and get kind of get his head on right and figure things out and his right approach to this thing, because he had a great media day session with us talking about how he has learned not to dwell so much on every little thing in his game. He's been able to he said, I don't care as much if I miss a shot. I don't care. I move on to the next one. And that was a problem for him earlier on in his career. He was really pressing. He felt like every time he stepped on the court, he needed to be perfect to try and, kind of catch the eye of his coaches and get some opportunities. And he played 187 minutes in the first 2 years. Just didn't play hardly at all here. Played mostly in Iowa. And so him being able to settle in a little bit and just kind of calm his mind seems to have done wonders for him, because that looked like a different player out there on Friday night. He did not look like the sort of chaotic, unhinged guy who was just, kind of like a baby deer trying to learn how to walk. Like, he was very much in control. The shot's still a little funky, but it's going in. And so if he does emerge as another rotation caliber piece for them, I mean, what a boon that is to a roster that, is a little older at the top, but still has this wealth of young talent that is available to them. And it's another success story for this player development staff of Chris Finch's that has really helped players come in and get better year in and year out. And that's what it looks like with Josh Minott so far.
No doubt. Let's talk about Anthony Edwards' Netflix special and a little bit about DiVincenzo, who looked like he was very comfortable the other night. First, though, tell us about Head Flyer Brewing.
Head Flyer Brewing, Northeast Minneapolis. We're back on board with them. That means it's Head Flyer season for you guys as well. Go out to their tap room. They have the best beer selection that I can find in the Northeast breweries. I love their Wicked Jump Shot. I've been going there. My wife and I have been going there for years, long before we had any kind of a business relationship. The people there are super friendly. It's a welcoming environment. They have great t-shirts and hats and cool stuff like that. But most of all, the beer is great and the setting is great. Go in there, watch a game, sit at one of the flat screens, but the tap room is open and airy. There's plenty of places to sit. They often have food trucks. You can get pizza delivered there. You can hang out with your friends, your coworkers, happy hours on the weekends, whatever it is. But Head Flyer Brewing, Northeast Minneapolis is the place to be.
Also, we want to hear about Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line, who have been sponsoring the program for a long time, and also gives a good reason to do a Twitter question at the end of the show.
That's right. Welcome back to sglambchops.com. Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops Clothing come back for their second season with Talk North and with the Jon Krawczynski Show. Jordan and Craig, you see them courtside at Lynx and Timberwolves games all the time. They are embedded in this community. They have, you want shorts, you want sweats, you want hoodies, you want t-shirts, hats, super high quality stuff at sglambchops.com. Go there, use the promo code JONK20 for 20% off anything there. The most comfortable casual wear that you can find. You can wear it at home, lounging around and watching games. You can wear it out on the town and still look good and feel good and be super comfortable. It's just a great company, local company. Another one that is invested in this community. We love that here at Talk North and with the Jon Krawczynski Show. So go to sglambchops.com, promo code JONK20 for 20% off anything that you could want there. Best shorts I've ever worn, super comfortable hoodies and sweats. Can't recommend it enough.
So what do we know about Ant's Netflix special?
So Starting 5 debuts Wednesday on Netflix. Ant is one of 5 players that they followed all of last year. Jason Tatum, Domantas Sabonis, LeBron James, and Jimmy Butler. And I've got a chance to preview it, and I can't say a ton right now. Obviously, it's under embargo and going to wait, and we're not going to spoil anything. But I will just say, for Wolves fans who are looking to get more intimate portrayals, more information behind the scenes stuff with Ant, you get that in this doc. It's a 10 episode docuseries, and Ant is very open with Netflix. There are some unbelievable scenes in there, both on the court and off, that you will find incredibly interesting and entertaining. And he's a private dude, but he did open his life up to Netflix in a way that we have not seen him do before. And so I learned a lot. And look, I've covered him since the moment he set foot in Minnesota. I feel like I know a lot about him and his journey and everything. And I still learned a lot in this docuseries. And, Ant is getting ready for what everyone believes is going to be another leap. Year 5. in this league. First year of his new max contract extension, coming off the Olympics and the Olympic experience. I think that everyone is expecting huge things. And, the docuseries really does kind of whet your appetite for this upcoming season in a big way. You'll get to connect with him, on a very intimate level. And I highly recommend watching it.
Dante DiVincenzo certainly didn't take long to look comfortable in a Wolves uniform. Again, we're not going to make anything big out of an early preseason game, but man, he was stroking it. He was already playing defense. He certainly says all the right things in interviews. What's your impression so far?
Yeah, I think that, we thought when this trade was announced, I was not worried at all about what Dante DiVincenzo was going to do in terms of fitting in. I think it's going to be seamless, and I think we saw that in the game against the Lakers. The thing that stands out, and yeah, I'm not going to do the make or miss league kind of stuff because he made every shot that he took. That's not really what I'm going to focus on. But what I am going to focus on is where he took those shots from. Mm-hmm. He stretches the defense in a way that very few Timberwolves have done, in recent memory. He's taken 3-point shots from well beyond the arc. And he does it with a very quick release. He's going to be high volume. Karl Anthony Towns is a great shooter, but I think one of the things that always kind of prevented the Timberwolves offense from taking another step is that he did not take a high volume of shots and from deep enough sometimes. He needed to be taking 7-8 threes a game, and it was usually around 4 or 5 and sometimes even less. And so DiVincenzo is going to get them up, and he's going to get them up in a hurry. And that provides a different kind of threat to put in the back of a defense's mind. And so when you see the way that he does that, and you also see the way that he moves without the ball, he was in Golden State for a little while, and I think he got a great education in how to move and cut and make himself available in a way that is going to help this offense quite a bit as well. I just think that it's going to be a really intriguing addition, on top of the fact that his contract is one of the best in the league in terms of 3 more years, 11, 12, $13 million, like just an unbelievable bargain. But just from that shooting and that cutting and off-ball movement standpoint, I think he's going to breathe a lot of air into this offense, which is what they need when you give up Karl Anthony Towns and you bring in Julius Randle, which is a different kind of a player.
So what's ahead for the Wolves, and when are they going to see Cat?
Yeah, so they have a full week of training camp. It was really weird, Jim, that last week they practiced for a couple of days in camp, and then they immediately had a game. They returned this last weekend, and now they're practicing all week. And this is essentially their real training camp, this week of practice. And so they're going to go through all of that, get Randle and DiVincenzo fully into the mix, like continuing to incorporate Dillingham and Shannon and the new guys. And really kind of lay the foundation going forward. And then they go to Iowa on Friday night to play the Philadelphia 76ers, where, in Des Moines, where their G League team plays. And then they go on Saturday, they'll go to New York and play Karl Anthony Towns on Sunday in the preseason game. Obviously, it won't be as big of a deal as the regular season meeting, and it won't be as big of a deal until he comes back to Target Center and makes his Target Center return in the regular season. But certainly to kind of, after having just a groundbreaking trade that absolutely dominated the NBA's headlines leading into the start of training camps, to be seeing him in that Knicks uniform right away, like that, it's going to be weird. I was watching a little bit of the highlights of when he played the other night and seeing him in that orange and blue with the 32 on his back. It's just weird. It just looks different, and it's going to take some getting used to. Yeah,
no doubt about it. Do you have a Twitter question?
We do. Let me find it here. Got it right here. Again, thanks to sglambchops.com for the giveaway that they're going to offer. And this one is from John Sulwald. The Twitter handle is @FairPlaysHouse. How did you break the Cat news to your kids? We still haven't, and my kids are big Cat fans. Man, John, you must have young kids, because I don't know how you keep that news away from them. This in this day and age. But I will say, I'll just give a little bit of a background on the story. I said last week, I told about Nita and Owen and Kat coming to see them at the soccer game. But the lead up to the story, I was with my kids at our local high school's homecoming game that Friday night. And we were just watching the game. I had heard some rumblings about possibly talks resuming with the Knicks, but I kind of was like, boy who cried wolf. Like, I've heard this too many times before. I don't think that there's going to be anything happening anytime soon. And then right around halftime of the game, I got a call. The first call that I got that was like, hey, this is moving in the right direction, and start preparing. And so I was like, oh boy, okay, this actually might happen. And then a little while later, I got another call and said, no, yeah, I think this is going to happen. Both sides are working through the final things to see if they can figure it out. But it's in deal making mode now. And that's when it was just me and my kids were running around with all their friends and at the game. And so I literally was behind the concession stand making calls, and finally got the final word. Shams and I both got it, and we tweeted it out. And so I literally broke the news behind the concession stand, and I called my wife and I said, you got to come up here and keep with the kids for the rest of this game. I got to go back to work. And she came up and did, the dutiful wife stuff, which saved me that way. But I looked at my kids both, and I just I could not tell them right in that moment. They were having fun with their friends. I didn't want to ruin that night for them. And I also had just a ton of work to do. My phone was blowing up. So I just said goodbye, and I went back, said, Dad's got to go to work. And so I went back to start writing, making calls, doing all the reporting, and the kids come back from the game, maybe around, I don't know, closer to 10 o'clock. And so they walk in, Dad, where are you? Why did you have to leave? Why'd you have to work? That we were having fun, all this stuff. And I finally just looked at him and I said, I'm sorry, guys. The Karl Anthony Towns got traded. And I felt like I had to just rip the Band-Aid off, just let them know they were at home. They were kind of crashing a little bit, and they both, Nita broke down in tears and just was crying. Owen was very quiet and just contemplative and soaking it in and trying to figure it out. And they both went to bed, not long after that. But yeah, I just that was one of the first ones that they're both of age. They're 9 and 12 now. And so, they're a little bit more aware of things. They have their favorite players. They get connected to these guys. And when someone like that moves on, who was a big part of it, they had a hard time with it. So Jon, I don't envy you. It's certainly a new thing that I'm having to deal with. But that's how we did it. And, they're cautiously moving forward now, but they both want Towns Knicks jerseys. So when I go to New York this weekend, I got to go find some Towns Knicks jerseys for them and bring them home, because they're Cat fans now and forever. And that's just the way it'll be.
Yeah. And this isn't like you can do what I had to do as a father sometimes and say, oh, he went to a farm upstate. Yeah.
This isn't we dropping the dog off at the farm and where he could go and run. No, he's going to be on TV. You're going to see him in another jersey. And it's, this is actually the opposite of that, Jim. He's going to a place where there is no space to run.
That's a very good point. Yes.
Yeah. He's here he had a big yard and he could run freely and drive without traffic and all those things. And now he's going to Manhattan and he'll probably live in a studio apartment and pay $1 million a year for it. So I feel bad for him.
Yeah, it's going to be rough for him. I know. No, hey, great stuff, Jon. This has been a blast. I'm really looking forward to this season and talking with you every week about it. Thanks to everyone who listens to TalkNorth.com. Check out our other shows, and we'll talk to you again next week.